It's a great pleasure for AccessibleEU, the European Accessibility Resource Center, to be here today in Nicosia and to celebrate this interesting workshop with our friends from the European University of Cyprus and the AAATE, the Association for the Advancement of Assistive Technology in Europe. Just take care that we have more than 700 people registered today. Not only we are here around, I suppose, around 80, 90 people here, but we expect online. I don't have the data. Maybe my colleagues can give me, but I expect we will be more than 300 or 400 connected online. So in this sense, let me start by expressing my gratitude first of all to our colleague, our friend, our AccessibleEU national expert in Cyprus, Katerina Mavru, professor in this university. Katerina, really thank you for your great work and congratulations on your recent promotion here at the European University of Cyprus, as well deserved recognition for your dedication and expertise. Congratulations. My thanks also go to the European University of Cyprus, represented here by Professor Loisos Zimeu, Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, for personally welcoming us today and for providing these universities generous support in terms of infrastructure and people. We are also really grateful to the AAATE for allowing us to include this workshop in the parallel program of the 18th AAATE conference under the inspiring theme, Technology for Inclusion and Participation for All, Recent Achievements and Future Directions. And of course, I want to extend my thanks to the AccessibleEU team, both those here and those managing from Madrid in Spain, for their tireless commitment in making events like this possible all around Europe. Thank you so much. Well, as Guillaume was mentioning in the introduction, AccessibleEU was launched with one clear mission: to build a European resource center for accessibility, really a hub on accessibility in Europe, connecting knowledge, expertise, and practice across member states, helping these member states of the European Union to implement the different accessibility directives, including the recent entry into force of the European Accessibility Act the last month of June. Since its beginning in December 2022, AccessibleEU has organized around 240 European and national events all around Europe, with more than 47,000 people attending these events. We have built a network of more than 4,600 members at our community of practice in LinkedIn, and developed the biggest online library in Europe with more than 600 references on accessibility that are available for professionals, for authorities, for companies, and for the global society. So we are also strongly committed to training. More than 2,700 people, professionals, have been trained in our online courses. In July, we launched the third edition of our online course on ICT accessibility. And in October the 1st, we will launch the second edition of our online course on accessibility in the built environment, as well as the first edition of our course on transport accessibility. These are key areas to ensure that professionals across all fields are well prepared to embed accessibility in the daily practice. We really encourage you to have a look and register in this the AccessibleEU portal to be part of these courses. It's completely free and you can complete the course at your own pace. But training cannot stop only at specialized modules. Accessibility should be part of the educational curricula at all levels. We should start with the schools to create awareness from a young age. We should continue to be included in this accessibility in this curricula in vocational training to equip future workers with practical skills, and absolutely fully embedded in university and postgraduate studies, ensuring that future professionals in all disciplines understand accessibility as an essential competence. For example, we are today in Cyprus, and this is particularly relevant, for example, in fields such as tourism, in management, hospitality, well, in tourism studies in general. In a country like Cyprus, where tourism is a cornerstone of the economy, preparing the next generation of managers, entrepreneurs, and service professionals with a strong knowledge on accessibility is not only a matter of inclusion, it is also a strategic economic advantage. Accessible tourism means higher quality services, means competitiveness in global markets, and new opportunities for growth. In short, accessibility curricula is an investment in the future workforce, in the rights of citizens, and in the sustainability of the economy. And that's what we are going to talk about today, this morning, about the main importance of accessibility to be taught at the different levels of the educational ecosystem. And once said that, it's my pleasure to introduce our opening session panelists. First of all, I would like to introduce Inmaculada Placencia Porrero, Senior Expert in Disability of the European Commission. She is connected online today. She is not allowed to be here today with us. Inmaculada has been the true driving force, the heart and soul, as I like to say, the heart and soul of AccessibleEU for many years, many years before it was launched. So we are really fortunate to count on her vision, guidance, and inspiration in shaping this initiative. So Ima, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, José Luis. It's really a pleasure to be able to join you, even if only online. I would have loved to be there, to share a few words with you, but what would have been most important to learn from you and your experiences, how to advance accessibility and knowledge and training and learning about accessibility, which is the subject of the conference today. Let me start by thanking the organizers and the hosts for bringing this event to life. I would like to say that when we launch, when the European Commission launched AccessibleEU, we had in mind the need of creating capacity, of having people in Europe, professionals in Europe with knowledge on accessibility that would be able to implement the accessibility legislation, the rules that we were putting on the table about accessibility. Without this knowledge and competence on accessibility, it would be very difficult to implement the legislation. Let me start by saying that among, of course, let's say the most powerful accessibility legislation is the European Accessibility Act. The European Accessibility Act contains accessibility requirements for a key selection of strategic important products and services for society and for participating in economy today. But among those rules on accessibility, there are also some rules on assistive technology, some obligations about assistive technology. But let me also say that there are quite a number of other other legislation that contains accessibility rules in the EU. And that is really very important because we are mainstreaming accessibility in many areas for which, whether it is about banking, whether it's about employment, whether it is about digital development, where accessibility is going to be implemented or is under the responsibility of a variety of sectors. And those professionals in those sectors need to learn about accessibility. And they need to learn in their studies. I mean, the effort that we are doing with AccessibleEU as a resource center, the investments that the European Commission is doing to have widespread of trainings and courses across the European Union cannot be competing with, let's say, having accessibility properly integrated in formal education and training, including vocational training. That's why the conference of today is so important, because the impact that education on accessibility and assistive technology can have in future professionals when educational centers embrace accessibility is really very, very important. Now, let me turn a little bit to the European Accessibility Act to say that because that triggered the formation of the launching of AccessibleEU. To say that it requires and it puts on the table the joint role that accessible technology with and together with assistive technology has in achieving access to products, to services, for persons with disabilities on equal basis with others, as it is set in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Being able to have the knowledge and the competence to work on that interoperability between the two type of technologies is really very important. So on one hand, you will have the constructions of those interoperable technologies, but then let's not underestimate the learning, the teaching, the use, the application of those accessible and assistive technologies towards persons with disabilities. This means also that we need to maximize the knowledge and the use of the capabilities, the functionality that those technologies offer today. A lot is already available and more is there to come. But if persons with disabilities are not made aware and do not learn on how to use accessible technology, they will remain unused. So also a plea for addressing in these educational efforts the use of accessibility and assistive technology. Well, to finish, let me just say that last June, the legislation became applicable. I know that there are a lot of efforts being done by economic operators to change the products and the services, and I'm confident that from now those products and services will be accessible in the market. We are working with the European standardization organizations to upgrade and to develop new standards for supporting and facilitating the implementation of accessibility. And our efforts at the European Commission are still focusing on the transposition. National laws needs to be really correct, transposing the directive, the European text of the legislation, in order to make sure that we achieve the objective of having a coherent European market of accessible technologies. We are working closely with the member states and to improve the national legislations where needed. And also we are working now to create a forum is one of the obligations of the directive, in which we will put together the national authorities that are going to be checking the compliance with users, with other stakeholders, to make sure that we address the same and tackle the same challenges in relation to the implementation of accessibility. Those national authorities also need training, also need knowledge and support. And I'm sure that initiatives like AccessibleEU, but also formal education on accessibility will really help to find and to support those professionals and create more professionals to bring capacity that Europe needs to implement accessibility. So with this, I thank you for your attention. I wish you really a very fruitful conference and discussions during the next couple of days. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ima, and for your words. And thank you for, as I was saying at the beginning, for your vision and your guidance to follow and to continue all the activities that we are carrying out within AccessibleEU. So next, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our host, Professor Loisos Zimeu, Vice Rector of Academic Affairs of the European University of Cyprus. Professor Zimeu, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome. A warm welcome to everyone here today. And most of you, I assume, you're going to be here for the conference starting from tomorrow. It is both an honor and a privilege to welcome you all at European University Cyprus, here in the vibrant city of Nicosia, for this important Accessible EU event held one day prior to the 18th AAAT conference. Today's gathering is not just another meeting in a busy academic calendar. It is a moment for us to reflect, to connect, and to act, and above all, to reaffirm our shared commitment to an accessible educational ecosystem that leaves no learner behind. I want to express my warm thanks to the organizers of AccessibleEU Consortium, the European Commission, Fondation Once, and all our collaborating partners who have brought us together here today in this shared mission. Education is the foundation of individual opportunity and social progress. But for it to truly fulfill its purpose, education must be accessible to everyone, across all stages and settings, from early childhood education through primary education, secondary education, vocational education, and higher education, and into lifelong learning. An accessible educational ecosystem means more than just physical access to buildings or the presence of specialized services. It means that the learning environment, the content, the methods, and the tools are designed so that every learner, regardless of ability, disability, or background, can participate fully and thrive. In many ways, accessibility is about equity in action. It is a practical expression of our belief that talent is universal, but opportunity is not, unless we consciously and collectively create it. Technology has transformed the way we think about accessibility. Assistive technologies, digital platforms, AI-driven tools, and online resources now make it possible to adapt educational material and experiences in real time to suit the need of every individual learner. At the same time, we must remember that technology is a means, not an end. A truly accessible education is also about inclusive teaching practices, flexible curricula, as mentioned earlier, and a culture of belonging. It is about awareness, empathy, and commitment, values that cannot be outsourced to machines. This is why we are here today, to speak not only of accessible technology, but also of accessible mindsets. The most sophisticated software will not create, in other words, inclusion, unless it is embedded in a system where educators, administrators, policymakers, and students all value and understand accessibility. Creating such a system is not the work of any single sector. It requires close collaboration between all stakeholders mentioned: educators who design and deliver inclusive curricula, technologists who develop tools that remove barriers, policymakers who create enabling legislation and allocate resources, advocates and communities who ensure that lived experience shapes solutions, and most importantly, students themselves, whose voices must be heard and whose needs must guide our actions. The European Accessibility Act, as mentioned earlier, which came into force in June 25 and has already been transposed to national legislation in EU countries, including Cyprus, gives us both a framework and a mandate for this collaboration. It is up to us to ensure that the spirit of the law is matched by the reality of implementation. Higher education has a dual role here, but also a dual responsibility. First, we must ensure that our own institutions are accessible in their physical spaces, digital platforms, course materials, teaching methods, and student services. Every student who walks through our doors, whether on campus or online, must encounter an environment where they can participate fully and equally. And second, we must teach accessibility, as mentioned previously by Jose, across all fields and disciplines. Every graduate, whether they become an engineer, a teacher, an educator, a healthcare worker, a designer, a lawyer, or a business leader, should understand the value of accessibility and be able to apply it in their professional practice. Accessibility is not a niche subject for specialists. It is a core competence for the 21st century professional. Allow me now to share some information about how we work here at European University on what we are talking today. At European University Cyprus, we are actively working to embody these principles. We have recently redesigned our students with disability support with a specific emphasis on accessibility that will also expand to other areas of the university activities, such as text transcription to all our videos, ensuring that multimedia content is accessible to persons with hearing impairments and to those who benefit from text support. We offer professional development programs for our faculty and staff, equipping them with the skills to make their teaching and services more inclusive. We have integrated courses of assisting technology and accessibility into several of our academic programs so that future professionals leave us not only aware of accessibility, but able to implement it. We participate in international initiatives such as AccessibleEU and AAAT that promote accessibility in education, sharing knowledge and learning from best practices. We work to influence national policy, particularly in light of the upcoming implementation of the European Accessibility Act, advocating for measures that will make a lasting difference for learners in Cyprus and beyond. These actions are steps along a journey, and like other journeys towards inclusions, inclusion, the work will be ongoing. My last message today is awareness is the seed, but collaboration is the growth. Raising awareness about accessibility is essential, but awareness without coordinated action will not dismantle the barriers that learners face. And action without collaboration risks fragmentation and inefficiency. An accessible educational ecosystem is built when policymakers talk to educators, when technologies listen to students, when advocates work hand in hand with institutions, and when all of us are united in a shared vision of inclusion. In closing, allow me to say that the work ahead of us is not just about compliance with legislation or the adoption of new technologies. This is the easy part. It's about building a Europe where education is a right enjoyed fully and equally by all. I am confident that the conversations we begin here today and continue at the AAAT conference in the coming days will strengthen our collective ability to achieve this vision. Thank you for your commitment and for being part of this shared effort. On behalf of European University Cyprus, I wish you a productive, inspiring, and impactful event. Welcome again. And after this welcoming and opening ceremony, let's go to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Simeu. You can count on us with AccessibleEU, also with Fundación 11. I'm absolutely sure that with AAAT to reach this goal, to reach a university, an education ecosystem really accessible that includes everybody. Thank you so much. I'm representing the Ministry of Education, Sports and Youth here in Cyprus, highlighting their interest on accessibility and inclusion. Thanks to Mrs. Christala Kukuma, okay, Chief Education Officer and Head of the Special Education Sector. Mrs. Kukuma, the floor is yours.
This is the opening speech of the Minister of Education, Sport and Youth, Dr. Athina Michailidou, for the 18th Conference of the Association of the Advancements Assistive Technology in Europe on Technology for Inclusion and Participation for All, and the AccessibleEU event. It is a great honor and a true pleasure to welcome you all to Cyprus and to the European University of Cyprus for this important gathering, which unites the AccessibleEU pre-conference event with the Association of the Advancement of Assistive Technology in Europe 2025 conference. Hosting these events in our country is both a privilege and a recognition of the commitment we share to advancing accessibility and inclusion in education and in society at large. Through the active engagement of our national experts in the AccessibleEU Center, Cyprus has been part of a wider European effort to promote equal opportunities and remove barriers that prevent full participation. Today, this effort takes shape here, with your presence and your valuable contributions. Accessibility in education is not an optional feature. It is a foundation for justice and equality. It is also a legal and moral obligation enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the European Pillar of Social Rights, and the strategic priorities of the European education area. These frameworks affirm that inclusive, accessible education is not only a right, but a necessary condition for active citizenship and a lifelong learning. This belief is central to our vision at the Ministry of Education, Sport and Youth, and it guides our policies, strategies, and daily work. We are working to integrate accessibility principle across the education system through improvements in infrastructure, the development of inclusive teaching methods and the use of technology in ways that empower rather than exclude. In this, collaboration with the European partners and the exchange of good practices are invaluable. The Association of the Advancement of Assistive Technology in Europe conference, now in its 18th edition, brings together a diverse community of researchers, educators, policymakers, and innovators. It is an exceptional platform for exploring how assistive technology and inclusive practices can transform lives. Beyond the scientific discussions, it offers opportunities for dialogue that are directly relevant to those who work every day to support learners, teachers, school leaders, and professionals in education and related fields. Events like this remind us that lasting change does not come from policy statements alone, but from the combined efforts of people who are committed, knowledgeable, and ready to work together. I'm confident that over the coming days, the exchange of ideas and the partnerships formed here will lead to practical steps that bring us closer to a society where accessibility is a reality for all. I warmly thank the organizers, the European University of Cyprus, the AccessibleEU Center, the AAATE community, and all partners who made this important event possible. Most of all, I thank each and every one of you for your presence, your expertise, and your unwavering commitment to building a more inclusive and accessible society. I wish you a productive and inspiring conference, and I look forward to seeing the outcomes of your work reflected in real-world practices and policies that benefit learners across Europe and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, we were talking before starting that the great importance of the really aware of the public administrations on accessibility to be taken into the activities to be done by the public administration. So thank you for that. For that commitment from the Ministry of Education, Sports and Jobs. So, and finally, just before we move to the first panel of the day, we are going to like to share with you a video that was presented last July in Brussels in an event that we organized, taking in advance the entry into force of the European Accessibility Act, focused on the importance of the engagement of all parts of society, public authorities, companies, civil society, and individuals in creating accessible environments, products, and services. So, as we say in this video, accessible, the word accessible ends in bol. Okay, in Spanish we say accesible, it ends in ble. In French, it ends in accessible, and it ends in bleu, something like that. Well, in Greek it doesn't work anyway. But anyway. But what we mean with bol and with ble in AccessibleEU, I think this video gives you some hints on it. So please, video, and I would like to share with you this video.
On a purple background, a yellow line moves, forming a tangle, then rectangles, sawtooth shapes and waves until it becomes a straight horizontal line. Voiceover on top of text appearing on screen.
Working together to build a more accessible European Union requires communication that is equally accessible. Let's get started. What defines AccessibleEU? We are the facilitators, the ones who promote it, the ones who help make it possible. And there is a word that facilitates action, that allows you to do something. A word that, interestingly, is found in our very own brand, the suffix able or ible. It indicates the capacity to receive the action of the verb. BLE, ble.
The line creates illustrations.
Ble means tendency, aptitude, skill, or ability to do or be something. And this is our idea, BLE, ble. It defines the capacity we want to build to make things practicable, livable, suitable, workable, etc. BIL. It is the engine to ensure that people enjoy and participate in society with full rights and opportunities. Our call to action. BIL. And all communicated in a way that is relatable, understandable, approachable, reliable, agreeable, sensible. AccessibleEU. Let's make it accessible. More BIL and less blah blah.
AccessibleEU image posters and their placement in urban settings are shown. Their design is clean and clear. Each is split in two, contrasting inaccessible elements with their accessible versions. One shows stairs with the word unlivable, contrasted with a lift labelled livable. Another shows a toilet under unsuitable, next to an adapted toilet labelled suitable. The third shows a door with a Greek sign above it incomprehensible, next to it a door with pictograms for a mixed accessible toilet labelled comprehensible. The last poster features a jagged line under impossible, beside it the line is straight and horizontal, possible. The posters are displayed on building facades and in public transport stations. Voiceover on the text appearing on screen.
AccessibleEU. Let's make it accessible.
The AccessibleEU Centre logo is displayed.